What's going on, guys? Welcome back to That Amazon Ads Podcast, where today we are continuing something we teased on the last episode, talking about how to apply bid ceilings to your keyword bids. What that means is you're increasing your bids. It's usually a good idea to have some kind of ceiling at some point so you don't, making those inching up of your bids, you're not going crazy with it. So we're going to be talking about that today. And this was something that we also talked about going way back to episode 5, when we were talking about when to increase bids and how much you should increase them by. And we had said at some point we would come back and talk about when to apply these bid ceilings and how to calculate those. And almost 30 episodes later, we're finally getting to it, putting it in. So yeah, Andrew, are you excited for this episode? That was a dumb question, but
it's about dang time, man. It's about dang time. Yeah. Finally getting around to doing this one. We teased it a long time ago. Sorry for the wait, everybody. But we're going to be talking about that today. It's exciting. I'm excited that we're 30 plus episodes into this. This is great. So
I know
hopefully people get some value from this. And
yeah, it's a new year, a whole new batch of episodes coming down the road. And for our listening audience, Andrew's really started dressing up his game lately. He's been wearing blazers and jackets on the last few episodes. So
yeah, but what you can't see is that I'm wearing sweatpants and slippers down below here. So
nice.
Really going with that CEO founder vibes, sort of.
Work from home vibes.
I think you're actually working the CEO founder look better
because I care less about what I'm wearing.
Exactly. Yeah, I cared enough to take the feedback and put on a blazer the past 2 episodes. So you're still just crushing it.
We've been talking about personal brand and the importance of having a personal brand, and I think you've done a much better job of taking that to heart. I'm I'm still wearing sweatpants. I'm wearing what I woke up in, frankly. It's been a busy week.
It has.
I'm going for the Sam Bankman-Fried personal brand with the crazy hair and everything.
There you go. Stealing people's money and everything. Yeah.
Not that part.
Oh.
Only the good parts of Sam Bankman-Fried. All right, guys. Well, we're just going to dive in. No major announcements. You guys already know. We say it every week. So we'll just dive in and kick this episode off. All right. So today we are talking about what are bid ceilings, why do we use them, and then how do you actually calculate these and execute upon them? And so we're just going to go through those 3 items. Pretty simple agenda for the episode. But Andrew, why don't you kind of kick us off and talk a little bit more about what are those bid ceilings? What do we mean by those?
Yeah, totally. So when we say bid ceiling, what we're really referring to is just some sort of cap, some sort of guardrail, some sort of safety measure that you're putting in place across your bids to prevent yourself from overspending or overbidding on certain keywords where it doesn't really make sense. So, for example, one thing that I see a lot of times is you'll get low visibility keywords or really low ACoS keywords. Sometimes this happens with brand keywords, and you'll see that it'll fall into that low ACoS category. You want to increase bids on those things, and a lot of times over iteration after iteration of doing that, you may find that your bids are extremely high, a lot higher than any of your other bids throughout your account. And so we use these bid ceilings as kind of a reference point to see when are our bids getting a little bit too high, and when we still have room to increase those bids to try to capture more of that visibility that's available for us.
Yeah, so the low visibility example is a really good one. So what that means, and I'm sure you guys know this or you remember it from episode 5, or you've already been doing this on your own, but if a keyword has low clicks or low impressions, typically the best practice, the standard procedure people do is they increase those bids by 5%, 10%, whatever. Sometimes those keywords, though, are low visibility. They're not because you're not bidding high enough, but they're just low volume search terms. So they're always going to have these, low impressions, low clicks. Even at a $20 bid, it's still going to be low visibility, low impressions, or you have that same keyword in another campaign that's actually getting all the traffic. So in this other campaign, there's a number of reasons why that may be. And so if you're never practicing a bid ceiling scenario, you could see that as you just continually increase these bids, 5% this week, 5% next week, or worse, you're doing 5% on a daily basis or something crazy like that. That's where you can really, run into some issues. And then really quickly, common mistakes. That's one, is just no ceilings in place. And that applies to people, whether they're doing things manually or if they are optimizing things even with an automation. A lot of times these third-party tools will allow you to enter some kind of a bid ceiling for those rules, like increase bids, but do not let it exceed this amount. But a lot of times people just don't use those bid ceilings. And I probably didn't do that during my early days of when I was first getting going, but pretty quickly I figured it out. After making these bid adjustments and manually in bulk and reviewing them, what would happen is I would say, okay, here are all my low visibility keywords. I'm going to increase these bids by 10%, and something would catch my eye. And that's why I think it's so important, by the way, to do things manually, because you're just in your workflow, you're seeing several more data points just as you're doing the process. When you're having an optimizer, just an automation, I should say, when you have an automation just do everything for you on the back end, and you're never actually reviewing or QAing all of the changes that are being made, you're just one step further away from the account. Whereas if you're actually still using a macro or still using some tool like AdLabs or whatever that's doing the math for you automatically, but you still are QAing it and reviewing it before you push those changes live, little things can catch your eye like, that's a $10 bid. Our average cost per click is 60 cents. That's really interesting that I'm increasing the bid by another 10% when it's already $10. And so way back in the day when I was doing these on bulk sheets, that was when it dawned on me, okay, this keyword has been perpetually in a low visibility state and has always had its bid being increased. And sure, yeah, the A cost is fine on it, but that's because we've been lucky that we're only getting charged 50 cents or 60 cents despite how big our bids are. But if a competitor ever came in and started actually bidding $10 and making us put our money where our mouth is, so to speak, we would be charged a full $10 CPC. And so as a safety measure, it's like, okay, if we're averaging 50, 60 cents, if we're really trying to stretch this low visibility, we can let these bids get up to maybe $1, maybe $2, but we certainly ain't going over $2 or $3 because we know how much we can afford and we're going to talk about that. How do you calculate basically how much can you afford based off your average order value, average conversion rate, all these types of things. So that's one big mistake, Andrew, is just no ceilings whatsoever. And what are some other mistakes you've seen people do when trying to implement these?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of said it all there. Like you mentioned, some software tools, they do allow you to have that, that max effective bid or max effective CPC setting where you can input, what that ceiling should be. But the thing they leave out is all the calculation and formula and data that has to go into actually figuring out what that should be. Because, you can have that tool there available to you, but if you don't know how to use it, then it's not really part of your tool belt. So I think, if even if you're using an automation tool of some sort or whatever, just having this foundation of how to actually think through the data and calculate what it should be for each individual account or whatever it is you're working on is going to be really important. So this should help you kind of shape exactly how to come to those conclusions, what you should be setting those settings to, and we're going to break all that down.
Yep. So let's jump into just a little bit more in depth, give a couple more examples about why we use these bid ceilings and why you should too.
All right. So why would we use these bid ceilings? We use them all the time in all of our optimizations. You should be using these too. But really, I mean, we've kind of laid it out a little bit, like why these are important, just kind of laying out like, okay, these are the mistakes that we kind of see on a regular basis with accounts. And this is just a solution that helps kind of prevent a lot of those mistakes. And so essentially what these bid ceilings do is they help prevent overspending or overpaying or overbidding for certain keywords where there's no real additional value to having those keyword bids set, and you actually open yourself up to more vulnerability than anything else by overbidding. You have the opportunity for a competitor to come in and start competing with you, forcing you to pay those high premiums for clicks that you're bidding on. So there's that risk that you have there of potentially overspending, pushing too much spend too quickly, just by having those bids in crazy territories up too high. So I think it really just prevents that possibility of you overspending on any given search term.
Yeah, I mean, on the last episode, Andrew, I think we gave the example of our friend who is a CMO of a large e-commerce business, and in his account, which we were helping work with a little bit, he had $20 bids when they averaged 3 to 4, but on some key $3 to $4 CPCs. But he had some bids that were $20 bids with dynamic up and down turned on, plus a 50% increase for top of search, which is essentially opening himself up to pay like $40 to $50 per click which is insane, which frankly, he's been lucky that they haven't been charged the full price. They've still been getting away with a $2 or $3 CPC. But that's just a good example of a safety measure. However, going back to what you said just a few moments ago too, talking about how some of the common mistakes and pitfalls for even when people are trying to implement these bid ceilings, they'll pick something very arbitrary. Oh man, what I hate to see is sometimes people put the bid ceilings at their actual cost per click. So if you average $1 cost per click, they put the bid ceiling in there at $1 cost per click. And it's like, okay, that shouldn't necessarily be the ceiling. Like your average cost per click should be around $1. Better performing keywords with better conversion rates should be a little bit higher CPCs, let's be more aggressive. And then underperformers a little bit lower, etc. And so that's one thing. But the other thing is with those kind of arbitrary ceilings, I usually see people just put really high ceilings in there, arbitrarily high, just $4. I average $1 CPC, $4, $5 bid will be my cap, will be my ceiling. And what that opens us up to is the death by 1,000 cuts scenario, in which if you're increasing those low visibility keywords 5, 10% here and there, and all those low vis keywords get to $5 bids, and they're only getting 1 click a month, and those CPCs are coming in, let's just say you are getting charged quite a bit because they're still kind of competitive-ish, you're in a competitive niche, you're still getting like $4 CPC here, $4 CPC there. None of those are getting flagged on your high spend, non-converting radar for those types of optimizations or your negative keyword optimizations. So all these little low visibility keywords with really high CPCs with only 1 click a month are all flying under all these radars and cumulatively spending thousands of dollars a month because you got thousands of keywords in this condition, and it's draining your ACOS and killing your account. And then you're confused because you're like, I don't know how I can lower my ACOS when there's not a single keyword in my account that's high ACOS. Like I've optimized these, like my target ACOS is 30%. There's not a single keyword that's over 30% ACOS. There's not a single keyword that's high spend non-converting. How is my ACOS still so high? And the answer is you have a ton of low visibility stuff that are paying, the CPCs are too high on 1 click. And you just have 1,000 of those and it's bleeding you out to death. And if you had exercised bid ceilings the way we're going to show you, you would not be in that scenario. So, and that's also, by the way, going back to the last episode, piggybacking off of that, we haven't seen any automated tool do this well to be able to calculate these bid ceilings. They're only ever going to just leave it up to go ahead.
Have you ever seen any that actually do calculate it for you? I don't know that I've seen any that do that have their own formulas or anything for it. I have seen a lot of the inputs where you can set it, but I haven't seen any like
that is more accurate. Yes, that is a more accurate description. None of them will do it for you automatically. They're only going to be user input. And what's difficult is that user input is governing I don't believe that you can just have one bid ceiling for your whole entire account or for all your campaigns. Like you're putting all your campaigns in some AI thing and you're like, here's my target ACOS. And my bid ceiling for all these campaigns together is $1, $2. Let's say you did the math properly the way we're going to show you, and you calculate what that bid ceiling should be for all of these campaigns. Even within there, you're going to have some products or some keywords that have higher conversion rates or higher AOVs. A $200 product versus a $10 product should have different bid ceilings. Hopefully those are in separate ad groups. And if they are in separate ad groups, you can apply those bid ceilings at an ad group level to avoid those low visibility keywords from ever exceeding the bid ceiling based off of kind of the ad group performance or the campaign performance. If you have single product campaigns, either one. So yeah, that's the other kind of major pitfall. Great point there, Andrew. But cool. Well, then let's switch over now and talk more specifically about how you actually calculate these bid ceilings for your campaigns. So when it comes to calculating these bid ceilings, which are just these safety rails for whenever you're doing bid increases, it's just an upper bound limit to prevent us from going too crazy with our bid increases. This may not come as a surprise to some people, but it may to some. We're going to be using the RPC, the revenue per click model, to calculate these bid ceilings. Big surprise there, Andrew.
RPC is king.
RPC is king, baby. RPC is king, which, if anyone's wondering what that means, I got very passionate and animated one night thinking more people need to know about why revenue per click is the best bidding method and I made a long series of LinkedIn posts titled RPC is King. And next week, we got a lot of a lot of requests in the comments on those posts saying, do an episode on this, please. So next week, we will try to record a full in-depth discussion on revenue per click. Well, we're definitely recording it. I just don't know if it'll be airing directly after this one. We have some guest episodes coming up too. But that episode will be coming shortly after this one airs. In-depth discussion on revenue per click, more just conceptually, why is it king? Why does it work? Why is it better than any other method out there? But if you want a quick refresher, we do talk about this in episodes 2 and 3, which, dude, as the show goes on, Andrew, I'm so glad we had the foresight to think we were like, on episode 2, to dive into how to calculate bids for keywords is way too technical, just getting into the weeds real quick.
Right into it. Yep.
Yeah, and we were kind of bashed for like, guys, this is episode 2 and you're already getting so technical. Why don't you speak to some more high level stuff? But we just really wanted to like backfill ourselves with some referencing material so we didn't always have to be referencing the future, being like, oh, it's coming later. So now we can. But Andrew, also, we were talking about these like AI chatbots and ChatGPT, like we were experimenting with this. I downloaded all of the transcripts for our last 30 episodes and I uploaded it into its own little ChatGPT, like custom build your own thing, uploaded all the transcripts to get it to become that Amazon Ads podcast chatbot that we can then share out this link to everybody and let anybody who is quickly trying to reference it or have a question and seeing if we ever answered it on the podcast, you can go to this, ask your question. The chatbot has all of the knowledge from our episodes. And I asked it, what is revenue per click bidding and why do we do it? And it couldn't answer the question. So that means
you made your own GPT, or you're saying that it's that one that one dude made
that the guy gave us? No, I made my own
separate one. Oh, cool.
Separate one. Yeah.
Got it. Cool.
But yeah, I couldn't answer the question well on what is revenue per click because I think those other episodes, it wasn't like the core like sole topic of discussion. So that's something else I'm thinking is as we start planning out these episodes, we should also be mindful of like what kind of transcripts are we trying to create as we're making this episode to make it a searchable index and database for people. So we will, that's another reason why we have to make that episode, but not this episode. So go back to episodes 2 and 3 for a quick overview of revenue per click and stay tuned for the episode that goes really in depth on what that is. We're not going to rehash that now. You'll just have to take our word for it that it's going to be the best method. So when it comes to calculating what the bid ceilings should be, simply put, we're just going to look at the ad group's performance and look at the general, what we're trying to figure out is what should the target cost per click be for the ad group itself. And so the way in which we do that is we're going to use that RPC model, which is revenue per click times target ACoS, or more specifically, you're going to be taking your ad group's total sales and you're going to divide that by your ad group's total clicks, and that's your revenue per click, and then you're going to multiply that by your target ACoS. The other thing that you can also do is you can look at the ad groups, the average order value and the average conversion rate, and you multiply that. So it's average order value times average conversion rate times target ACoS. Those are going to give you the exact same output. On the next episode, when we kind of talk more in depth about revenue per click, we can show you exactly why those two equal each other, why they're the same thing. But that's actually when I am talking with people, I a lot of times don't say you should calculate the bid ceiling based off your revenue per click. I'm usually just saying just based off the average order value, based off the average conversion rate. If you know your target ACoS, we know your target cost per click. That's enough data for us. It's just fewer steps and fewer calculations, especially in Excel, to just do sales over clicks, and it gets you the same result. So that's why we usually do revenue per click, sales divided by clicks. It's just faster on our spreadsheets, and rather than having to first calculate your average order value and then calculate your average conversion rate and then multiply those together. So, Andrew, anything to add so far before I sometimes when I start talking about these numbers, I just start rambling.
Yeah, I'm here to hopefully help fill in the gaps for us dumb people. And so no, I'm just kidding. But so essentially to inform what your actual CPC or actual, bid ceiling should be on the keywords inside of an ad group, you're going to first start and look at the ad group level data to help inform like what the target CPC for that whole ad group should even be based on the data across all those keywords. And then we're figuring out what the, okay.
Yeah. And,
gotcha.
and actually, Andrew, and here's why I actually literally have goosebumps. I mean, I don't know if the camera can see, but I have goosebumps thinking about this because it all just, everything that we're like doing and talking about, sometimes like hopefully someone out there, these things click at some point. And sometimes they click for me again. And I'm like, man, this is really cool what we're doing. But, and I feel like we also need a full episode dedicated to this, but we have a great episode that I think is a little underappreciated. The Sixth Sense of PPC Managers. That one didn't get that much love. And the more I think about that episode, the more I'm like, dude, that's probably the most important episode people need to know. And one of the elements in there is we were talking about the manager needs to develop the sixth sense of knowing when to aggregate their data versus when to segregate or segment their data. So the pros of like getting more and more granular, more and more segmented, you're going to have a lot more individualized control. But the error of that is if you over segment, you could end up in this very scenario where you have thousands upon thousands of these one-click a month keywords, these low search volume keywords, because you over harvested your account. When you were harvesting every single converting converting search term that ever came through without any regard to search volume or click volume as an additional criteria before harvesting those keywords, you might have just added 1 billion low click, low search volume keywords to your ad groups. And now you've over segmented them. You've erred on the side of going too granular. And that's why you're struggling you're experiencing this death by 1,000 cuts syndrome, because you're trying to increase the bids on all these low visibility ones and cumulatively spending too much. And the ad group is our way to kind of backpedal and re-aggregate that data, where if you have 10,000 keywords, let's just say you have 10,000 keywords in this one ad group, and one of them has 1 click and 1 sale, and the ACoS is really, really low, and all the rest have 1 click and no sale. There's not a single keyword in there that's offensive or bleeding you out. There's one that has an order. But when you look at the ad group's total ACoS and total conversion rate across all those thousands, you might realize that over 1,000 clicks only getting 1 order, you can't afford 50 cents per click when your AOV is only $10. And that ad group is going to save your butt here in allowing you to reconsolidate, re-aggregate that data into a general benchmark for this product, for whatever's going on in that ad group, for all of the search terms combined. And so the ad group, that is how this is going to solve our scenario. And so we're looking to find what should the average cost per click be for this ad group. We're not going to just make that the same bid and same cost per click for every single keyword in there. This is just going to let us know that as we're increasing bids for either low visibility or low ACoS keywords, we know we at least can't exceed this threshold. So do you think that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Makes total sense.
All right. So in a minute, I will actually start screen sharing and showing a small example of this on a spreadsheet. Although if I'm being fully and totally transparent with our audience, I'm getting very, very hung up on doing this at the ad group level. And there are a couple of questions that might pop up. Number one, what if the ad group itself doesn't have any sales? That poses a problem.
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question.
We're talking all about revenue per click and sales divided by clicks. So the easiest solution here is if the ad group itself has no sales, you just jump up one level higher and you look at the campaign level data. Now, this assumes you have multiple ad groups in a campaign, right? If there's only one ad group in a campaign and that ad group doesn't have sales, then the campaign also doesn't have sales. And so if that's the scenario, if the campaign doesn't have sales, then what you'd want to do is you'd want to jump up to an even higher level. You could just jump to your total profile level, like all of your sponsored product campaigns. We usually like to have one little stepstone in between when your campaign itself has low data, and before we jump all the way up to your total sponsored products. We like a little middle ground there, which we call campaign groups, or actually we usually call them like optimization groups, which is just a group of campaigns that you expect to get similar performance, either because they have the similar product in these campaigns or similar targeting tactics. Like this is all going to be, hey, this is product family A or product family B. This is all of our non-brand keywords or all of our upper funnel keywords. And you would group those together where you're expecting them all to have a pretty similar average order value because it's similar products or even the same product, and pretty similar conversion rate because it's pretty similar targeting tactics. So you take these campaigns with similar AOV, similar conversion rate. That means they're all going to have a similar revenue per click. Should be pretty consistent performance. So if you ever have a specific campaign or ad group with really low data, we just work our way up this hierarchy of getting more and more consolidated and aggregated of benchmark data points that we can essentially use to bring it all the way back down to the keyword level. So it's pretty complex when you think about it. This whole like jumping up and down these hierarchy tiers, trying to find the sweet spot between how is the most granular we can go to be as specific as we can be without sacrificing getting into these really weird, super low data situations, which this is where I was going to say, in full transparency, I admit some fault and guilt of my own that when I was doing this several years ago, I would usually be lazy with my campaign or with my keyword bid ceilings. I would only just look at my total account level. I would just say, yeah, like, okay, we're averaging
Better
50 cent. Yeah, we're averaging a 50 cent CPC. Our bid ceiling is just going to be 2x $1. Nothing's going over $1. And I got away with it because all of the campaigns, all of the products within that account happens to have pretty similar AOVs, pretty similar conversion rates. So I lucked out. But when we started doing ad labs, which hopefully everyone knows what that is by now, that's the tool that we built for ourselves, because exactly what I just described, that's what we needed to do. We tried building this in a macro, like an Excel macro sheet. It was way too complicated. Things broke. Amazon would update the bulk sheets and break everything. So we just built the app to do it for us, to do it for us, because we needed it. So it's free, link in the description of the video and everything like that. But it does exactly what we're talking about here, searching high and low throughout your account to put in these smart bid ceilings, essentially. Well, that's what we call them, smart bid ceilings. But calculating based off of average order value, average conversion rate for every single campaign group, optimization groups, ad groups, all these things. We have all those bid ceilings calculated so that whenever we're increasing bids on these low visibility or low ACoS items, we're never exceeding that. So go ahead.
Real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just recap everything that you just said and just make sure everybody kind of understands what you just said. So essentially what you're saying is, we're going to start at that ad group level. If that ad group level doesn't have enough data, we're going to then reference the campaign group. Now, if you have a single keyword campaign single product ad group, only one ad group, then that campaign is going to be low data too. So we're going to reference a larger collection and reference a grouping of campaigns or portfolio or like a tag of campaigns or something like that.
Yeah, basically a portfolio.
Portfolio of campaigns that generally have same products, same tactics, same targets, target ACoS or same goals kind of. And then, so in those low data scenarios, we're going to reference that grouping because same product, going to probably have generally similar performance. We can kind of get some benchmarks from that groupings data to inform our optimizations for that individual campaign. And so I'm thinking like, okay, this might work in a situation where I have like a bunch of single keyword campaigns that are maybe lower data. I could group those together and still kind of inform what those placement optimizations might be by referencing the grouping. And you kind of, it was funny, you pointed out the way you were kind of getting away with setting those bid ceilings at the profile level. Like in that situation you mentioned, that makes total sense. If they had, similar price points, similar AOV, you could kind of get away with something like that. I was thinking of myself in one account that I work with where this client has vastly different price points across their catalog. They have price point of like $15 all the way up to like $200, $300. And so in situations like that, you may not be able to just get away with using that profile level benchmark because, it might be relatively like, it's an average of everything. So it might work out. But and on those like smaller scale tests and smaller scale implementations, you're going to probably get wildly different results. So it'd be better to set those differently based on, that product specific data across other campaigns.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Am I making sense? I'm just trying to reiterate kind of what you were getting to. Maybe I did a horrible job of it.
No, I always think it's helpful when you put things into your own words and perspective, but it did make me think of one additional scenario where we were talking about like if an ad group or campaign has no sales, what do you do? The other thing too, which is kind of interesting, is what if the ad group itself has one click and one sale, which that's just really low data confidence that looks like 100% conversion rate and a crazy high revenue per click calculation. Like we're talking $10 to $20 cost per or revenue per click, whatever the sales price was on that single click. And if you're making your bid ceiling based off of that, you're going to have the same scenario of having these bid ceilings go way too high. And so that just adds another layer of complexity to the checks that we need to do, where when we're trying to, we have to first figure out, can we use the ad group as a benchmark, or do we have to look up a higher level to the campaign or group of campaigns or the profile level? The two checks that we do to see whether or not our ad group is data sufficient enough for us to calculate our bid ceiling is, does it have at least one sale? And then we say, does it have enough clicks? And how we figure out what those clicks would be, we're figuring out based on we use our average clicks to conversion ratio, which is on average, how many clicks does it take to get an order? And if for your account, let's say on average takes 10 clicks to get an order, or 10% conversion rate, then we would want to make sure this ad group has at least 10 clicks and at least one order, because then we could say, okay, we're good enough. Like, that's a pretty good start. It's better than no sales, or it's better than, one click, one order. It could have 100 clicks and only one order and be super, super underperforming our average conversion rate compared to our average 10% conversion rate. That's okay. That's perfect. If the average conversion rate is that bad for this ad group, we know these bid ceilings are going to be much, much more restricted as we start using them. So we do want to use the ad group data in that case. So just another added layer of complexity, which just get Ad Labs. It'll take care of it all for you. But let's jump into the screen share and show what this would look like if you were to do this manually on a spreadsheet. All right, so Andrew, we got our spreadsheet here. Open up. This is one of my accounts, just filtered out for a specific campaign. It's clearly a product targeting campaign. And yeah, there's a couple ways in which you can do this. It's really just up to your workflow. You could actually we talk about calculating what the target cost per click should be at the ad group level. You could literally just, optimize the ad group default bid, or you can create a new column that's your target cost per click column. That's usually what I do. I have a target cost per click column, and then I'll use a series of VLOOKUPs to kind of pull stuff around. But you could also just enter it in the ad group default bid. So we talked about how the calculation for that bid ceiling is going to be your sales divided by your clicks times your target A cost, which for this account, it's around 30%. So we'll just multiply by 30%. So sales divided by clicks times 30%. And we see that ad group default bid is now 72 cents. So what that means is that is on average what the cost per click should be based off of this ad group's average order value and average conversion rate. We should be averaging around 72 cents per click in order to hit that 30% target A cost. It just so happens on this account that we're way below the target A costs, coming in at 22%. And that's because our CPCs are really low at 53 cents. It's also, we're recording this a week before Christmas. So it's been a particularly good season for this account. So that's part of why the A cost is so low. But
makes sense.
Don't need to get distracted by that. The way this would look is for all of these product targets down here that we got these 3 different product targets. All of these are way below my target A costs. So typically I would come through and I would be increasing these bids, right? So I'm going to insert a new column here. We can call this new bid. And typically what I'm doing is, and we talked about this on episode 5, but by how much should you be increasing the bids for these keywords? Should it be 5%? Should it be 10%, 20%? And the answer was, do you remember, Andrew, what we said last time? Because I do, but I don't know if you remember from almost 6 months ago.
I'm just going to guess and say we said it depends.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what we said.
The classic answer. Yeah, it depends. But more specifically, it depends on a couple of things. It depends on, number one, your frequency. If you're making adjustments on a daily basis, you're going to be wanting to do much smaller increments. If you optimize your bids once a week or once a month, let's just say, if you only optimize them once a month, you could probably go a little bit bigger with your swings. If you're doing them daily, use smaller adjustments. Otherwise, if you're making 10% adjustments every single day, that's just a lot of increases day over day. Those compound. Compounding interest type vibes. Yeah. So frequency. And then the second thing is I think we just said use your brain or something like that. But basically
context. How about context?
Yeah, context.
What kind of season you just mentioned? This is all from December. So it's all from a highly inflated conversion rate period. So have context for what period you're optimizing into. What period are you going into? with this type of information. So I think that's a good second point.
And the biggest question you need to ask yourself is just, what's the speed at which I want to move the needle on whichever needle I'm trying to move? If the client is saying, if things are steady right now and clients are like saying, yeah, ACoS looks really good, I'm enjoying that the margins are lower than normal. The client's like, hey, the 20% ACoS, that's fantastic. Let's just kind of keep it chill. Then I would probably come in here and only do like a 10% increase because, I'm going to take my bid and I'm going to multiply it by 1.1, which is going to be a 10% increase from where it's currently at. And just do a slight increase because, on this one, the ACoS is only 10%. Kind of low data right here, right? It's only, it is 12 clicks.
Yeah, 12.
It's only $2 to spend. So this is a good example of like, we're only going to increase this bid by like 10% because the client is chilling. He still wants to get more sales, but he's not really in a rush to get us back to that 30% target ACoS. But we've seen the scenario where maybe you're actually underpacing. Maybe you have a set budget for the month of December and you're underpacing towards that spend goal or that sales goal. And it's very important for you to start moving the needle now. And so when you see this thing, all these keywords are super below your target ACoS, you could say, hey, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to crank this up 20% increase, really get the needle moving. But the reason why we have to be very mindful where these bid ceilings come in place is what if someone else was managing this account and they already changed this bid to like $1 or something weird happened, or there's a third party automation, or who knows what happened. But this bid was actually already at, let me actually come back here. We're saying I should increase this bid by like 10 or 20%. But these bids could be whatever, like the bid, I guess this is the main thing. The bid itself is not a data point. The bid is a current status. It's what the bid is currently set to. So my cost per click is a data point. The cost per click, the historical cost per click, and this is a month-to-date report for December 1st through December 20th. So it's like the first 20 days of December. This cost per click is a historical data point for how much we've been paying over the past 20 days. The bid is not a historical data point for how much we've been bidding on the past 20 days. These bids have not been at $1 for this entire ad group and product targets this entire month. But someone could have just changed these bids to $1 right before I downloaded it, right before I downloaded this bulk sheet. And now you can see the problem. Increasing my bids here by 20% is not a good idea, because even though this is a low ACoS keyword, that doesn't mean I want to be bidding $1.20 all of a sudden. Do you see the problem? Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, you could be increasing that bid perhaps from like your CPC. Like you could take that CPC and say, increase that, I want to be paying an extra 20% or 30% above my CPC. But you don't necessarily want to be paying $1.20. So do you think I lost anyone, Andrew, here? Anything to clarify?
No, I think the point being, just whenever you're looking at these bid increases, just to have this reference point of like what a high bid is for this ad group, even is just like a really good sticking point for people to kind of take home and take back. Is just having this benchmark now of 72 cents informs us that, these bids were already too high as is, and them being at $1 or $1.20 isn't necessarily delivering additional clicks and sales and impressions and only opening you up to vulnerability. And so, it kind of acts as almost like a guiding light or just, safety rail for you to prevent things like this. Like if you came in and your bids were actually $1 right now, just running that simple ad group calculation would show us that, those are a little bit too aggressive. We're not seeing any additional value having them that high. So we shouldn't, and we really can't afford to be paying any more than what we have for that ad group target. So yeah.
I mean, I should have gone with $10 to make the example really extreme and prove the point that, if someone had hijacked my account, or maybe the client did, because the client was doing something, they made a typo, or who knows, right? But like somehow you got some $10 bid in here, or actually this is just what algorithms do. Like other tools.
Literally.
Yep. They're just like, they pay no regard to the ad group's general performance and what you can on average afford. We did the math here. We calculated what our average ad group's target cost per click was. We said 72 cents. But you could have bids here where even when you're bidding $10, your CPCs are still just coming in really low, and you just keep increasing these bids by another 20%, 10%, whatever, and you're just going to keep making these bids from $10 to $12. The next time we run it, it'll be like 14, then change. It's just going to keep increasing these bids ad infinitum, and it's going to cause you a headache and problems down the line. And really quick, someone's probably going to ask me, well, then why don't you just calculate the bid based off the CPC instead of doing, equals, 20% increase from your bid? Why don't you do equals a 20% increase from the CPC? And the answer to that is twofold. Number one, well, there's two reasons why that's wrong. Number one, sometimes the CPC, you're bidding $1, and for whatever reason, Amazon gives you a 2-cent CPC. Because who knows? It was like a phrase match keyword. Some weird random search term came through, and that was like the one click you got on the phrase match for that period. And it was a 2-cent CPC. And let's just say you can afford $1. Like you can afford $1, and that's typically what you're bidding. But then when you try to increase your bid by 20% from the CPC, which happens to come in at 2 cents for whatever reason, you just dropped your bid to 3 cents. So that's why that doesn't work. On the downside, like you can actually accidentally nuke your bids if you're just getting really cheap CPCs. You can actually afford to pay more. You can actually increase those bids, but you accidentally reduce your bids because you're using the CPC, you're increasing the CPC. That's number one. Number two is that the CPC and bid are not the same thing. Like in every single one of my accounts that you ever see, the CPC is going to be higher than my actual bid, like 90% of the time, because our bids are always a little bit lower because we're increasing for top of search and we're increasing for product pages or whatever placements. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I bet that's going to be kind of a shock to people, honestly, because I bet most people don't have that situation where their CPCs or their bids are lower than their actual CPCs in most cases.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah. And to be factual, the bid formula, I think we were saying like your bid ceiling should actually be, we're saying equals like sales divided by clicks times target A cost percentage. But then it should also include times the campaign placement modifier. That's the whole thing. Because we have, for every single campaign that we have an additional variable attached to those campaigns, which are accounting for all of the placement settings for that campaign and the performance for that. So before anyone asks us how to calculate this is such a important secret to us. We don't want like competitors getting a hold of it. So it's only available in the masterclass, which during the recording of this, our podcast, our masterclass editor told us it's about 85% of the way done, which means hopefully by the time this episode is airing, it will be fully done and available to access. So if you really want to see exactly how to get that campaign placement modifier in there, that'll be where you can get it. But
yeah, and on that real quick, I also have the website guy. He should be done pretty soon too, depending on when this airs. So potentially, we'll see when we actually launch this. We might have a link down there for you to check out masterclass, at least kind of learn a little bit about what it is, and potentially set up a call if you're interested with us. So be on the lookout for that. I don't know if it's going to be there. So if you got this far, check it out.
And if anyone's wondering what masterclass is, it's like the podcast, but on steroids, just in terms of the type of content we're delivering. Yeah. I'll tell you this, in the masterclass, we don't have the playful banter that we have on the podcast. So it's a lot more distilled and to the point. Sometimes people, they get mad at us. They're like, you guys got to stop talking about your clothes.
Stop talking about your life. We don't want to hear about that.
Yeah. Just tell me how I can make money.
Give me the formula.
Yeah. So
real quick, before you jump.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Before you jump back in here, I just thought of something. Can you show me your formula there for your ad group default bid? So you were saying this is kind of like your target CPC. This isn't necessarily your bid ceiling though, is it?
Correct. Yes. Thank you. This will bring us to a conclusion. Yes.
I got you.
So we figure out this is what the average cost per click should be. And like we started saying before we got all segued and stuff or distracted, your bid is not the same as your CPC. Usually your bid's going to be, your target CPC. Your bid is not the same as your target CPC. Usually your bid's going to be a lot lower because then, and your target CPC is actually higher than your actual bid. It's just going to be the campaign placement modifiers that actually get you to actualize at that higher CPC. But then the actual ceiling itself too isn't necessarily just what your target CPC is or what your target bid is. The bid ceiling is usually going to be higher than what your average should be. So, and it is arbitrary. So this is the part where it becomes a little bit of art and science balance, where like the math formulas we're showing you here are the science part, but then there's still a little bit of like artistic side for you to be able to figure out what the end of the day ceiling is. I'll tell you as a safety, just like a very safe thing, we'll usually put our bid ceilings at around double what the target cost per click should be, which is pretty forgiving. So what that would look like here is, let's just like change these back to like $1. Or actually, how far do I have to go back to get back the actual keyword bids that we had originally? Not too far. There you go. Back. Yeah. So let's just like, actually, so all of these are quite a bit below what the average kind of target cost per click should be. But let's just pretend this one was like 5, and let's pretend this one was like 1. Okay. So what we would want to do is like the bid ceiling, if we want to kind of do it this way, we can say like ad group bid ceiling, and you can do another one of these columns for your campaigns and your group of campaigns, all this kind of stuff. But maybe it's just double this. So, and the reason why it's double is because you don't want to be too restrictive on a keyword that, especially if it's a low ACoS keyword and you're increasing those bids, like you want to let those fly a little bit. So it's possible that one keyword averages twice as good performance as the ad group average. And so that's why we pick double. We're going to let things go up to double kind of what the average cost per click should be in total, because we've seen some keywords have, double the performance, double the conversion rate, double the revenue per click compared to the average. So we don't want to restrict them. We want to let them fly. You certainly could open that up, and you could open it up to a 3x ceiling if you want to be really aggressive. This is again when like, should you be increasing your bids by 5% or 20%? Depends on all these things, spend pacing, sales goals, all this kind of stuff. So same with these bid ceilings. If you're really trying to push sales, you can open up that ceiling. You can go double, you can go 3x. If you're trying to be super conservative because the client's like, you have to pull the ACoS down now, you can limit it to just 1. And you just say, we're never going to exceed, or I would actually probably do 1.5.
1.5. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends. If the keyword has sales and it's low visibility still, because it's like 1 click, 1 sale, I'd probably do 1.5. If it's just low visibility with no sales, it's just 1 click, no order, you could potentially just restrict it to just a 1 times multiplier. So now that we know that this is like, $1.07 is kind of like that's our bid ceiling. It's double our kind of default bid. You would then just come through here and look at your new bids, and you can see that basically whenever something, and let's actually pretend this was a little bit higher, like 50 cents. So we're increasing the bids on these by around 20% because we're really trying to push sales, but we don't want to exceed double our target cost per click. So a 2x to our like target cost per click is the bid ceiling. And anything that gets above that, like this guy, you'll probably see this. If you've never managed bid ceilings before, you will probably see this if you do this in your accounts right now. You'll see there's going to be some weird keyword in there with a $5 bid, and you've been getting lucky with that you're only getting charged 10% of what you're telling Amazon you're willing to pay, and you're trying to increase this by a whole other $1 when you're trying to do a whole $1 increase on top of the $5, when really you should never be exceeding a $1 bid in the first place. So when you run into this scenario, all you do is you just flatten these down. That's where the ceiling comes in, wherever the new bid exceeds the bid ceiling, that's the limit. You don't exceed beyond $1. And a lot of times people are like, and actually and we'll conclude with this now. I said we were going to be concluding. This is the conclusion, but here's the final ultimate conclusion. People often, when I show them this, they'll say, look at this keyword. This is driving $1,000 in sales, 23% ACoS. Oh my goodness, why are you reducing my bid? Look at all this. I'm going to highlight all in yellow. Why are you're killing this bid? You're dropping it by 80%. It's driving so many sales.
I'm going to lose placement.
The ACoS is so good.
I'm going to lose visibility.
All this kind of stuff. And it's like, dude, your bid is still above your CPC. Like,
yep.
You're not going to lose, like you're already still you're paying enough. Your bid is high enough. the reason why we're doing this bid ceiling here, like you're not going to lose any impressions, any clicks, anything like that, like because you're still paying the full CPC. But what this is protecting you against is you weren't getting this performance because of a $5 bid. You were getting this performance because of a 50-cent CPC. That's the answer. The day you actually get charged a $5 CPC, like actually, let's just calculate it.
At a 14%. Yeah.
I'm going to change this spend here to be the total clicks times the $5. And then I'm going to change the ACOS here to be the spend divided by sale. Spend divided by sales. That's getting you a 200% ACOS. Okay. That's what that $5 bid is threatening, I should say. It's not going to get you there now, but that is the liability you are exposing yourself to. You're exposing yourself to spending over $2,000 at a 200% ACOS because you weren't practicing bid ceilings.
Now, hopefully you have budgets. Your budgets are set.
Yeah.
Not crazy high budgets and crazy high bids. I mean, then you're really screwed. But yeah.
And all it takes is to actualize that spend, thousands of dollars of spend at a 200% ACOS. All it takes is one other person bidding on the same keyword, a $5 bid, because who knows why they did a $5 bid. Maybe they were just going on a super aggressive ranking strategy, or they turned on some automation that did something dumb and didn't exercise bid ceilings. But that's all it takes. All it takes is someone else being the second person to bid $5, and that is now the CPC for that target. And now both you and the competitor are paying that price. And yeah, so I hope that was helpful. Please let us know what questions you guys have. But that is the conclusion, I think. So Andrew, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'll let you add any closing thoughts. Concluding thoughts.
I like it. I'm going to conclude these thoughts and just wish everybody a happy holiday. Hope you had an excellent Q4.
It's after the holidays, Andrew.
It's after the holidays, but I hope you had a good holiday. And
yes, good.
You got a nice reset. We're ready to kick 2024 off aggressively. We're going to be pushing things. You'll see. We got a lot coming in 2024. Very excited about it.
It's the year of YouTube. We're going to try to go
all in,
real
baby.
hard on making YouTube native content. The podcast is not necessarily super YouTube native, we don't think. We're going to be doing like some stuff that's just really crafted for the YouTube channel. So make sure you're liking and subscribing these videos. At time of recording, we're at 800 subs. Hopefully we're at 1,000 by the time we're getting this. If not, push us there. This year's going to be a big year for YouTube. So make sure you're really liking and engaging all of our content. We're going to be dropping a ton of value. We will likely be adding some teasers and some free lessons from the masterclass. Some of like the shorter lessons to YouTube as well. So be sure to check those out too.
All right. We'll be back. We'll be back next week, right? I don't know. I'm all messed up, guys. I don't know where we're at, what day it is. But
we're recording the next episode tomorrow, but you guys will be hearing from us next week on that Amazon Ads podcast.
See you guys.
Peace. Just get ad labs. It'll take care of it all for you. But let's jump into the screen share and show what this would look like if you were to do this manually on a spreadsheet. Oh, I shared the wrong screen.